Okay. There was something I was going to ask you. I was calling you back.
You shouldn't have to call.
I'm not sure. And because I saw the agenda, it was just set the public hearing. Yeah, and then I see it's here, so I said, hey, no, it's fine. He said he just wanted to come. I think he was watching.
It's not okay.
He was watching.
Yeah, because I remember you saying that I was pretty clear.
Yeah, well, see, when he called me, I'm like, Jeff, I don't see the agenda. I didn't know, but I told him. Steve, sir. Yes, sir. You seen Tony?
I have not.
You might not have. Oh, you got three, you got a pair.
Now, I did see him earlier today and had no indication he wasn't coming. So,
There you go.
here he comes.
We got everybody. Okay. So, now Ms. Robinson not going to be here? I didn't.
She was late.
Okay. I don't know if you can or not. Stand there.
But I told him you Hello, sir. I hope you're well.
Oh, yes.
Glad to hear. Ready?
Yes, sir.
Wow.
Yeah,
This is a house full.
it is.
This is make you feel like now that we got at least
Think you
a little over
probably-
10,000.
I think you can expect that for the next
For Tony
couple
to
meetings.
get himself together.
Do I need to come see you? What'll be a good day?
Anytime.
Slow day. No, I know you don't have no slow day.
Just call it and balls out. Make it work.
Okay.
But
We don't be none of that boss lane.
Tony, are you ready?
Yeah, yes, sir.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Good evening. I'd like to call the Winterville Town Council meeting to order. Today is February 13th, 2023. Our invocation today will be coming from Elder Melvin Tillery, Mount Zion Free Will Baptist Church, Pinetown, Yatesville community. Mr. Tillery, if you would come to the podium over here, and after Mr. Tillery will stand and do the pledge.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you will join me for this ceremonious and momentous occasion in a bow to our Father as we bow in prayer. Most holy and all-wise God, we come before you this evening, thanking you for this is the day that the Lord has made. Surely we shall rejoice and be glad in it. Lord, we thank you for this gathering on tonight. We thank you, O God, for these council persons that are here. We thank you for the mayor. We thank you, O God, for your endowment of wisdom upon them as they seek together, understanding their differences, cultural. But God, we know, Lord, that because we've invoked your wisdom, Lord, that you will allow them to come together with understanding, oh God, to solve the differences that this community needs. God, we thank you, Lord, for Councilwoman-elect Brandy Harrell. We ask that you endow her with your wisdom, endow her with your understanding. We thank you, O God, for the power that you've given her, O Lord, to seek your face in all things. Lord, to do what she has been called to do for this city. Not this city only, O God, but for the government and for our country. Lord, we thank you, O God, for all that you will do, all that the wisdom and the vision that you have given them to move this community, this city, and this country forward. And we ask that you do it in Jesus Christ's name, and we all say amen.
Amen. Everyone can please stand and face the flag, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, again, welcome, and this is awesome to see this chamber packed tonight for a great occasion. But we do have some special people I'd like to recognize. First of all, we have Senator Kennedy Smith with us tonight. We have Judge Jeff Foster in the back. We have Commissioner Mark Smith with us over in the corner. See if anybody else to leave out. And I think Councilwoman Monica Daniels from Greenville is with us today. And Mayor Don Hardy just texted, he was on his way, so if he's out there, Don is here with us too. And if it's anybody else I missed, I apologize. There's so many of you out there. So, but welcome to Winterville, to our town meeting. Next up is the approval of the agenda.
I'd like the item, the agenda item under new business discussion, having a 6 o'clock meeting versus a 7 o'clock meeting discussion under 14, item number 1.
And you said that's again?
It's 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock, okay, all right.
Mayor, members of the council, I have a couple of changes before you vote on the agenda. As you see, you'll have an amended agenda, excuse me, at your seats. First, we reversed the order of presentations and recognition of employees so that presentations would be first. And then if you'll flip over, you'll see that we have added a closed session, a very short closed session, but we felt like we needed to have our town attorney bring you up to speed on a couple of items.
Okay. So can I get an approval of the agenda?
So moved.
Second. Okay. Got a motion and a second. We're going to do it by roll call. Is the clerk or are you going to do it?
I will do the roll call. He's going to record the votes. So with that said, I'll ask Councilman Moore,
Here.
Councilman Rice,
Here.
Councilman Moy.
Here.
So it sounds like all votes in favor of approval of the agenda.
All right. Motion is approved. Next up, we have the installation of oath of office of our newly appointed town official, Ms. Brandy Harrell. Her oath will be given by the Honorable Elizabeth Heath, Chief District Court Judge, 8th Judicial District. So, if y'all can, yes.
I'm going to get out of the way.
For me to take 1 second and say, no, maybe won't know why I'm here. I'm met Dr. Brandy Burrell several years ago, and she began working with me closely over the last probably 5 or so years in our public court endeavor over in the 8th district, and she's a treatment provider, and she has just worked side by side with me for a long time, and it's been a great asset to me, and also has become a friend here for that process. And so it is with great honor and excitement that I'm going to be here tonight and administer this oath to her, because I know that she will commit herself to this job in the way that she has with me and the work that we do. So, if you would, this is Dr. Will's husband, and he is going to hold the Bible. If you can hold that up, place your left hand on the Bible. There you go. You're ready. Well, I say that. Okay. Bible, raise your right. So she hasn't been in court too often, so she's trying to work. So, and then, if you would repeat after me. I, Brandy Burrell. Do solemnly swear. That I will support. And maintain the Constitution. And laws of the United States. And the Constitution. And laws of North Carolina. Not inconsistent therewith. And that I will faithfully. Discharge the duties. Of my office. As town councilwoman. So help me God. Congratulations.
We're going to go into recess for a second, let her get seated, and if anybody care to leave, I mean, this is your opportunity, but, but y'all are more than welcome to stay. Yeah, I just saying that, but you know, you're more than welcome to stay. Hey, excuse me for 1 second before you start moving? She just want to say something. I'm sorry. Hope you're well. You wouldn't know it, Tony.
He's coming, Jim's working out there.
That's great.
I mean,
You said three more to go?
two.
2 more.
She messed up last Friday. I was in a mistake. Somebody different. So I had a radiation. I had a half.
Thank you for cutting out the time. Man is awesome.
How far apart are your sessions? So when you,
Last time I went that 45 days straight.
okay. Okay. So you had one today. When will your next one be? Okay, sweet, every other day. Okay.
Chief, I need to move my car now. Excuse me.
Are we ready? I'd like to call the meeting back to order. Next up, we have presentations. Tonight we have with us School Board Chair Don Rose and Superintendent Dr. Ethan Linker. If y'all want to come up to the podium. Whoop, did I do something?
Mayor Hines, we also have facilities person, Aaron Erickson.
Okay, and Aaron, y'all have the floor.
Well, first, thank you for the opportunity to be here, for this opportunity to talk, and we'll bring you up to speed a little bit about A.G. Cox, but also just want to thank the police force here for their work in helping with our SRO program. And I know the last year or so with A.G. Cox and all the work that he's been doing over there, it's causing a little bit of commotion here in town. So we certainly appreciate the help, and with the whole community just getting us through all that. That's obviously been a challenge, but there's light at the end of the tunnel. We've seen some great things going on. You see the building coming along. The 2-story building is done. The 6th graders are there. It's moving. It looks great inside. If you haven't been inside, you need to come out and check it out sometime. It looks great. But I'm going to let Aaron Erickson talk a little bit about the building and what we've done so far with that building and what's to come in the next several months.
Thank you.
Okay.
Good evening. At this point, the A.G. Cox project, all the classroom impacts are completed. So all the students at this point are in their permanent location. The 2-story wing is fully constructed, open, and actually, as of today, it is checked off on the punch list, so we are complete in that building. We have completed the renovation of the 700 building, which was an HVAC and electrical renovation, as well as the fire alarm. The connector is constructed between those buildings, which will give the students a safe, dry passageway between the 2 different education wings. And we are in the process of mobilizing, actually tomorrow morning, for the demolition of the 1935 wing. So you'll see equipment arrive tomorrow morning, and they will start construction or deconstruction later this week. At that point, that should take essentially 6 to 8 weeks to complete. And once that is done, they will construct the new office admin building in the footprint of the current media center. And the classroom wing area will become the new parking lot for the school. So that's kind of a broad overview of where we're at, but if you have any specific questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Anyone have any questions? Anybody have any
Just a
questions?
comment. Look forward to it. Nice
Thank you.
addition.
Could you speak on the bricks?
Certainly. As part of the deconstruction, the demolition contractor is instructed to save a minimum of 500 bricks, and the school will be organizing a sponsorship to engrave those bricks, and we will turn them into like a brick sitting wall area to the right of the new office area.
Okay.
Do you have a projected date of completion of the whole project?
Right now, the contractor is telling us that they will be complete with the project as far as occupancy of the building at Christmas of this year. And paperwork-wise, we expect it to wrap up in January or February of next year.
Any other questions, anybody else?
You're going to resurrect the reality store? You probably not. It's something I volunteer for at A.G. Cox. Great program, it really is.
I know you, Mayor Hines, you had questions on occupant, or how many students we have in buildings.
Yes.
ADM is how many, but that is actually, with all the construction going on here in Winterville and eastern side of Pitt County, and now we're seeing out in Stantonburg and Farmville, a lot of growth coming. It's actually obviously huge on the board members' minds as well. Mr. Erickson and I are working on getting the town planner at one of our next two meetings to have that dialogue.
Okay.
Aaron and I will go through and look at all the capacity numbers of all the schools and look at all that, because basically the way the state counts capacity numbers, it can change from one year to the next, so it makes no sense. So we're actually going to go through and say, here's a classroom. I know what I can put there, right? I can put, 22 to 24, depending on the grade level kids, and we can figure out the exact capacity of a building. So we'll work on that. And then we'll bring in the town manager or the town planner to help us look at all the plats and all the development in Pitt County and start planning a future, what we may need to do, whether that's, right now we have about 8 or 9 buildings that we've turned into DPI in the state. We've applied for grants to add several classrooms on, including W.H. Robinson. Where'd you go, Aaron? Ridgewood? Ridgewood, Robinson, here in this community as well. So we're looking at that and realizing that there's going to be some potential growth, lots of potential growth down here on this side of Pitt County, and we need to be prepared. I'm certainly looking at that. So we'll be looking at that with the board's direction for the next several months and planning with the county commissioners moving forward.
Yes, that was one of my main concerns when I spoke to you before,
Right.
when we was at the basketball game, looking at all the potential growth that Winterville was having and making sure that we're going to be able to house our students, in this community. So we appreciate the update. Yeah. Anybody else have any questions? Don?
I just want to add that we appreciate the working relationship we have with the town council here. If you have any questions about redistricting or anything like that, give us a call. We try to answer them, but that's something we're all going to be looking forward to, or not looking for, excuse me, let me change that. We're not looking forward to any type of discussion like that.
Right.
But however, we do know, like, they're growing
coming.
here, 700 apartments going on Stantonburg Road, which is the Farmville district, 600 homes in Farmville, or planned in Farmville. So, and then, we're growing over here on the Conley side. So we're growing across the county. Aiden, Griffin area is growing. So, it's something we're going to have to take a look at. So,
Yeah.
and that's why we've had talks. I've had talks with Dr. Linker. I know that most of the board are not looking forward to any of those talks, though. I can promise you. But
Well,
we appreciate what you do.
Well, we appreciate y'all for what y'all do too. We know it's not an easy task, but it's a task that sometimes that we know we got to take it on. So, but again, we appreciate y'all coming out tonight, presenting to us. Feel free to come anytime. Our doors are always open. We thank you. Okay, next up, we have recognition of employees. I'm going to turn it over to the town manager.
Okay. You all had one of our new electric employees on the agenda, but unfortunately, he's still out working, so he couldn't be with us this evening, but we appreciate all he's doing. So with that said, I'll turn it over to Cliff McGuffin, our Public Works Director.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I would like to introduce our newest employee in Public Works. This is Mr. Seth Garris. He came to us from Greenville Utilities. He is our new utility pump maintenance mechanic, and we're excited to have him. Anything you want to say?
I would like to say I'm very grateful for the opportunity to be working for the town of Winterville. I believe I've only been here a short time, but I found myself in a very tight-knit community. I work for some wonderful people, and I've met some wonderful people in the community, and I look forward to helping everybody in the community as I continue my work. So thank you for the opportunity.
Jeff, where you from?
Greenville, North Carolina. Yes, sir. Grew up here.
I saw you working one day. Yeah, on Board Street.
I believe he's hit the ground running.
Yeah, that's what I
Already.
thought when I saw it. I said, yeah, I saw you when you came through, so it's good to know that Cliff got you going.
Yeah.
All right, well, welcome aboard.
Thank you very much.
Welcome, thank you.
Okay, next up, we have a proclamation, Black History Month. Don, can you do the?
Yes, sir.
What page is it on?
Proclamation is on Black History Month. Whereas much of the town of Winterville's honor, strength, and statue can be attributed to the diversity of cultures and traditions that were celebrated by the residents of this great region, and whereas February has been designated as Black History Month, in which we pause to reflect on the contribution of the African American community, and we recognize this year's Black History Month theme, Black Health and Wellness. And whereas African Americans have played significant roles in the history of North Carolina's state's economic, cultural, spiritual, and political development, while working tirelessly to maintain and promote their culture and history. And whereas, as a result of their determination, hard work, intelligence, and perseverance, African Americans have worked tirelessly to maintain and promote a valuable and lasting contribution to the town of Winterville, our state, and nation, achieving exceptional success in all aspects of society, including business, education, politics, economy, culture, science, arts, and history. And whereas this observance affords special opportunity to become more knowledgeable about Black heritage and to honor the many Black leaders who have contributed to the progress of our nation and community. And whereas such knowledge can strengthen the insight of all our citizens regarding the issues of human rights, the great strides that have been made in the crusade to eliminate the barriers of equality for minority groups, and the continuing struggle against racial discrimination and poverty. And whereas we join with all Americans in celebrating our diverse heritage and culture and continuing our efforts to protect democracy for all people and recognizing the vital achievements of our local African American residents. And now therefore be it resolved that I do hereby proclaim the month of February 2023 as Black History Month and express special commendation to the dedicated volunteers who have labored so diligently to make this observance a reality in our community. And witness, therefore, I do set my hand and cause the seal of Winterville to be affixed this 13th day of February 2023. Richard E. Hines, Mayor.
Thank you, Don. Next up, we have our public hearing. First on the item is subdivision ordinance amendment. Ron Jones.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, council. Let me first apologize. I know this is a very lengthy agenda packet, and I'm the cause of about half of that, so I apologize to you. Hopefully you guys got some good reading material out of it. If nothing else, maybe helped you go to sleep a couple times the past couple weeks. So with that being said, that we do have some proposed subdivision ordinance before you guys tonight. So I'm going to run through these fairly quickly. If you've got any questions, I'd be happy to drill down as much as you guys want. So you see on the screen there, and you guys did receive a...
Mr. Jones?
Yes, sir.
I was going to ask a question. 15413, staff level approval. What was the reason for that, to change that? Just curious.
Sure. So you got two types of subdivisions listed in the subdivision ordinance, major and minor. Minor is a very routine subdivision ordinance, 5 lots or less, no infrastructure improvements. It is standard practice pretty much throughout all, I would say primarily the majority of municipalities and governing boards to treat a minor subdivision on a staff level. To treat them as a major kind of does this service to someone who's trying to cut out just a lot for whatever person, whether it be a family member or, you know, to sell an acre off a farm or something, but with no infrastructure impacts. It's a lot of fanfare to get that one lot out of it, especially on.
What examples this past year we worked on?
So there was one out on Reedy Branch Road. Very recently we did. It was an acre lot. So that's one that's going to be out in the ETJ. It's served by a septic system, so they're going to tap on to water, septic. No, they'll get a driveway permit through.
Come before this board?
It did, yes.
It did. It came before.
Yeah, it
What
did.
month was that?
I'm not sure. It was a Beth McLaughlin piece
It
of
was
property.
around October or November.
And that's another thing. So it's one of these things that's so few and far between. It gives staff a little bit of leeway to not have to tie up, obviously, your time and our time, but it gives a little bit of, I would say, a little bit of a fast track for those minor subdivisions to those applicants as well.
You second the motion.
But yeah, so, but I'll start from the top. Section 154.2, that's authority. So that just gives that's general statutes of North Carolina gives us the authority to administer the subdivision ordinance. We have to update that ordinance. That reference to 160D. If you guys remember 160D, the whole thing we did with the zoning ordinance, that's the same thing. So we're literally just giving a state statute reference. So moving down to 154.13 and 154.16, that deals with our minor subdivisions. So like as I stated before, minor subdivisions are 5 lots or less, no infrastructure, so pretty routine stuff. So we would propose that there would just be a staff level review. When we say staff level, we're obviously going to put that through our technical review committee as well. And it also gives language to allow for anything other than a routine minor subdivision to go before you guys. So if something out of the ordinary, and I don't even know what would come up, but if something we felt like the council needs to put their eyes on, we definitely have that option to put it before you guys. Moving down to 154.17, effect of approvals, prerequisites. So this is just talking about acceptance of improvements. So anytime a development goes in, the town's going to eventually accept those improvements. We're talking about anything in our road right-of-way, utilities, meaning water, sewer, electric. So we're just beefing up our language in that section to make sure we have the proper people in place to inspect those improvements and make sure that they're installed correctly before they are accepted. So moving down to 154.21, that's connectivity and appropriateness to adjoining property and land uses. So it's been a long-standing policy that any subdivision in town have 2 access points, mainly getting back to emergency services. That is not currently codified in the ordinance. So that's what we're going to do is add language in there. Anything over 30 lots would necessitate 2 access points. And we did leave room in there for, the ability to modify that requirement if there are environmentally sensitive areas that we can't impact or something like that. So moving down to the next one, Article 5, guarantee of required improvements and warranties. So as it currently stands right now, a developer can come in, do a preliminary plat, construction plans, get to a final plat stage, and not have all the required improvements in place before they record the final plat. They do that through a mechanism, through a financial surety or a guarantee that they will have that done with that financial surety. So talking with the management team, the manager's office, Public Works, it's become problematic to operate that way. And council stance for essentially a conditional approval in the past has been that it would be something that we try to shy away from when possible. So the proposal would be taking away the ability to post financial sureties or bond improvements before the final plat gets recorded. So in essence, everything is done at final plat. When they come in and want to record a final plat, you guys will know that everything's in the ground, everything's ready to go, and the town can, start with the warranty process and essentially get that stuff accepted quicker. Is pretty much the case there. So again, 154-59, that's another update for the NC General Statutes reference. And then the mapping standards in Appendix 1, all we're doing there is improving formatting. And you guys will see in that summary I gave you, it's all kind of jumbled up in there. And one of the big things is the way we accept digital records. So there it actually asks for an outdated format, a DBX. I don't even know what that is anymore. So we're literally just going to call it digital formats, accepting it that way. So I'll say that Planning and Zoning Board did unanimously recommend approval of these ordinance amendments in January. Notification of this public hearing was published in the Daily Reflector on the 1st and the 8th of this month. And with that, Mayor, I'll answer any questions from the board.
Section 154-31, Park, Recreation, Open Space.
Okay.
Explain that.
So that shouldn't have any amendments to it, but
No changes.
no changes.
Is there any way we can do away with the paying us a fee? Do other towns charge a fee or land?
So that's standard practice as well, and that's something we could definitely look into.
Does Greenwood do that?
Yes, sir.
I believe that's also the statutory language, if I'm not mistaken.
And that's why I didn't want to get too far ahead of myself. I think that's statutorily required.
What's the price based on the land?
So we do a market value, and the ordinance spells out market value. We use the tax assessor's market value. So what we'll do is 1,200 square feet per dwelling. So what we do is just go in and formulate what that would equate to whatever the acreage is, and then based off the market value. So
How many lots do we have in town and neighborhoods at this time that we own for recreation?
None that I know that have been dedicated to the town.
We may have had one land dedication since I've been here. Most of it's been,
Reggie Spain did one long time ago.
yes,
So was that Copper Creek?
Cooper's Point, I
Or,
believe.
yeah, I'm sorry, Cooper's Point, yeah.
How about the Cedar Ridge on the left-hand side? That land
So I don't know what
That was given to the town.
I don't think that was a recreation.
It was not.
That was part of them mitigating that stream at some point. It was essentially unbuildable land at the time, and that was one of their selling points was to give the town that land, so.
And of course, we had to accept it, and we did.
Did we sell that land?
I think council could dispose of that land as they so chose. I'd have to defer to the town attorney. Part of the a small piece of that may be affected by the Old Tar widening. We've got to
Right.
work through that. It'd be a small part.
As I recall, it's been a little while since I've seen that deed, but it was deeded to us in two tracts. The one, the narrow tract that runs all the way to the back that
That's right.
parallels the stream, and then a larger one up by the street and by Old Tar. And I do believe the widening's going to affect part of that. But to answer your question is yes. I mean, if there's a statutory process we have to go through, but we could go through and sell it if the council so
They
desired.
would like to use it for recreation area. Sell it, do something with it, with the land.
I do think that was part of the Greenway project that we have put on hold,
Oh, right.
but do intend to bring back to the board at some point. So
Yeah, so
we would need to rework that if council decided to dispose of that property.
Make a motion approved based on the plan and zoning unanimous. Public hearing.
Public hearing.
yeah.
Thank you, Brian.
Any questions? Yeah, any more questions for Brian? Yeah, I'm sorry. Got off track there. Any more questions for Brian? If not, we'll move on. Appreciate it, Brian.
Yeah, you got to open public hearing.
Oh, public hearing.
Yeah.
All right, I'm trying to move on. I'm sorry.
We got you, Mayor, we
All
got
right.
you.
So now we'll open the public hearing. And when you come up for the public hearing, if you will state your name and your address for the public hearing, I declare the public hearing open. Anyone that would like to speak against these changes can come to the podium now. Anyone that would like to speak against these changes? Okay. Anyone that would like to speak for these changes could step to the podium now. Anybody would like to speak for these changes? Seeing there's none, I declare the public hearing closed.
Mayor, I'll also note that I'm not in receipt, or the town clerk's not in receipt of any comments as well.
Okay, thank you for that. Now, Tony,
Make a motion to approve the changes.
got a motion by, do I have a second?
More second.
Okay. Got a motion made by Councilman Tony Moore, seconded by Councilman Moore. Any discussions? With no discussion, Terry will do the roll call. If you would please state yay or nay, please.
So this will be a motion to approve the subdivision ordinance amendments as presented. I'll start with Councilwoman Harrell.
Yay.
Councilman Tony Moore.
Yay.
Councilman Johnny Moy.
Yes.
Councilman Paul Rice. So it's my understanding we received 4 votes in the affirmative to approve the subdivision ordinance amendment as presented.
Okay, thank you. So the motion passed. Next up, we have system development fees, and it'll be presented by Anthony.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. Tonight, this public hearing is established for the, excuse me while I get my papers organized. I apologize. So our system development fee public hearing tonight is in regard to new development in town. And so we have, North Carolina General Statute allows for us to the North Carolina General Statute allows us to charge developers a certain fee based on criteria established by the North Carolina General Statute. This was presented to the town council in December at our December regular scheduled council meeting. And at that time, there was a presentation given by the Wooten Company, who was the engineering firm who ran the calculations based on state statute. And so they presented that night 3 different methods of calculating what our system development fees maximum can be. That was the buy-in method, which basically assesses our town assets and the valuation of those assets. The second was the incremental cost method, which is basically accounts for future projects and construction in progress and capital improvement plans. And then the general statute allows a third option, which is a combined cost method. And that's the option that Wooten recommended for the town of Winterville. This evaluation has to be done either 5 or 10 years, and we elected to go through this evaluation every 5 years. There was a 45-day public comment period, for which started at that presentation in December, so we have exceeded the 45-day comment period. And this was advertised in the Daily Reflector and on the town's website. We did receive 1 comment from Bill Clark Holmes through their representative, Landon Weaver, and he had 2 questions. One, was there a look-back period effective for these system development fees? And the answer is yes, there is a look-back period. The town can go back 1 year and apply these fees to anything that's been developed in the past year. But staff's recommending, once the council adopts this, we move forward from that point in time.
Anthony, and that's based off what period in time in a project that these get?
Construction drawing.
Okay. Just wanted that clarification.
Approval of construction drawings. The second question he had was with regard to the price and what the fee would be set at. And so when we presented this originally, the recommendation that came in from the Wooten Company was we could legally, and it's presented in your package, but we could legally charge $4,330 for your first lowest size meter, which is a 5/8. That's your industry standard for your residential home. And that's split up over water and sewer. And staff's recommendation is that it would be, and to answer Mr. Weaver's question, staff recommendation is 50% of that fee, which is $2,165. And that is based on the current market. We looked at the city of Greenville as well as the town of Ayden, who already have these fees in place. And this was in line with what they are currently charging. So we didn't want to price ourselves out of that. So that's the staff recommendation with regard to pricing.
Anthony, I'm so sorry, but as a point of clarification, on the abstract, it states 4033 for water and sewer. It is 4330, am I correct? Which half of that would be the 2165?
Yes, it's 4330.
Okay. Just so we're all on the same page. Thank you.
And you can find that recommendation on page 2. I think everybody, but maybe Councilwoman Harrell has a copy of this. But, so, pardon the typo there.
So 2165 is the recommendation.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
And so those are his two comments. Reached out to the Wooten Company. They had not received any comments. So that's all that we're aware of. And with that being said, I stand by for any questions.
Anybody have any questions for Anthony before we go to public hearing?
Anthony, one point of clarification, if I may. It would replace what we are currently charging in the way of sewer access fees.
For acreage fees.
I mean, sorry.
Yeah.
Lord, acreage fees. Yes, thank you. But sewer frontage fees, which is only charged in very few circumstances, that is not involved in this.
No, those are very rarely used, but this
Yes.
is basically new development. It's designed to basically keep the citizens from having to pay the burden of the costs associated with the new development.
Right.
So it helps counter out that.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other questions? Yeah, Mr. Moore, you have a question? Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. If no other questions, I declare the public hearing open. Anyone that would like to speak against this, please step to the podium. Anyone that would like to speak for this, please step to the podium. And Anthony said there was no, Don, there was no comments or anything? Okay. You didn't see any
Just the one from Mr. Weaver.
Okay,
From Bill Clark.
besides Mr. Weaver, okay. With that being said, I declare the public hearing closed. What is the pleasure of the board?
Move for approval.
A second.
Got a motion made by Councilman Tony Moore, second by Councilman Moore. Any discussion? If there's no discussion, we will do the roll call for the votes.
Okay, I'll start with Councilwoman Harrell.
Yes.
Councilman Moore.
Yes.
Councilman Moy.
Yes.
And Councilman Rice.
The motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Next up, we have our public public comment section, and before we get into that, read this little piece here. Let me put on my specs so I can see. The public comment period of 30 minutes provide an opportunity for residents to comment on any item including in the agenda or to address the town council on any other matters related to the town of Winterville. For any item included in the public hearing section of the agenda, residents should address the council at the time the mayor invites public comments on the item. No public comments may be made to the councils during the meeting, except during the public comment period or as part of a public hearing. Individual speakers are limited to a maximum of 3 minutes, and no more than 3 speakers may address the council on a single matter. The town council may elect to take no action on the matter addressed by a speaker, may schedule the matter for further consideration at a further council meeting, or may refer the matter to the town staff for disposition. Copies of the town public comment policies are available in the rear of the assembly room. And we do have one person that has signed up to.
Also,
Oh,
as a second.
she's gone.
She's gone?
She's gone.
So she's not speaking?
She's not speaking.
Okay,
Right,
gotcha. Sorry, I missed that.
Right, she's not speaking. She told me she would.
Gotcha.
First, we have Miss Brandy Daniels, if she's here, step to the podium.
Hello, do I need to give my address?
Please.
Brandy Daniels, 2945 Foxglove Drive, where MetroNet showed up today. Well, first, Town Council, thanks for having me, giving me this opportunity. I at least first want to acknowledge Ms. Robertson in her absence and wish her well wishes on feeling better. I first want to congratulate you on finishing up the process for filling the vacancy in Winterville. I'm hopeful that this, of course, will begin the process of refocusing on behalf of the citizens in Winterville. I just wanted to make a few comments and my observations through this process of coming to the meetings and just kind of being an observer and not really a participant. I first just want to give a sincere appreciation to the town attorney for his commitment to integrity. I think integrity is best shown when no one is looking, and how you can take that and make a decision or choose not to. And so I just wanted to emphasize how important that is, especially with the amount of power that we give you all as town council. And so I also want to just emphasize how important it will be for the council to create an ordinance so that the next time we can follow the procedures in place and not have a lot of back and forth and sometimes cohesion that causes friction. It's really not good for the town. And also to make sure the process is equitable moving forward. But I also wanted to follow up on some comments that I made a few months ago. I made some comments regarding improving relations between our police and our residents, and just wanted to see where we were and also be willing to work with you all to help increase those relationships. It's always best to be proactive as opposed to reactive. And those are all the comments that I had.
Thank you, Ms. Daniels. Next. Senator Smith.
And that's up to
Yeah.
council.
This,
Good evening, council. This is my first opportunity to be able to address you as a council, and it is an honor to be here. I want to make sure that you are aware that my doors are always open, because we have to make sure we're working together, and I know that there are going to be needs that you have as a town, so please feel free to reach out to me, because my job is to make sure that I'm supporting you and trying to get you as much money as possible, because that's what everybody else asks for. So I'm going to do the best that I can. So please reach out to me. I look forward to working with you, and thank you so much for what you do. God bless you.
Thank you, Senator Smith. We appreciate that.
Tell us a story. You gonna share your story? We're all curious.
I was jumping out of the plane, the parachute did not,
It's great.
I was just walking. That's how simple, yeah. And I slipped and broke it.
You weren't skiing?
No. I tried to make it creative, but, no.
You did good, you did good. You got a laugh out of us.
I will say the senator has mastered the use of those crutches, though, absolutely.
Yes, indeed. You do well, you do well.
Okay. Wait a minute, consent agenda?
Yes.
Consent agenda.
I'd like to remove items 2 through 6 from the consent agenda.
2, 3, and 6, I believe I
I think
heard.
2 we've already voted on, hadn't we?
No, sir.
Okay, all right. 2 through 6.
2, 3, and 6, or 2,
No,
3?
2, 3, 4, 5, and 6.
Oh.
Through
Five,
6.
Okay. 2, 3,
2 through 6? Okay.
Ask some questions about each one of them. And make a motion we approve item 1 consent agenda.
Okay.
Minutes.
All right.
A second.
Got a motion on the floor and a second. Motion made by Councilman Tony Smith.
Tony Moore.
Councilman Tony Moore.
That's okay.
Lord have mercy.
Oh, me.
Second by Councilmember Brandon Harrell. Any discussion?
But since you second the motion, Councilman, who's now Commissioner Smith, his first meeting, December, way back, the present board at that time hired a fire chief. He came onto the board 10 minutes later, they fired the fire chief. That was exciting. I was there that night. So thank you for that.
We're hoping for a lot less excitement than that time.
Exactly.
Okay.
That was an amazing night. I couldn't believe it. So thank you.
All right. So now we'll go to the roll call.
Okay, I will start with Councilwoman Harrell,
Yes.
Councilman Moore,
Yes.
Councilman Moy,
Yes.
and Councilman Rice. All vote in the affirmative to approve the minutes. Consent agenda.
Consent agenda has been approved. All right.
What page are the
Separately.
fee and rates?
Yeah.
Schedule, what page is it on? It's all changed with the numbers,
All right.
kind of.
Says,
On page 103.
103.
103 through, now I got 116 says fee schedule. 116.
So the fee schedule, so the rate schedule is on, that, the agenda item starts on page 103 with the abstract.
103.
The next page you'll find is the rate schedule
All right, just say
for our
fine.
utilities, and then on 116, you will find the fee schedule
All right, let
for
me find the first one. What page?
the fee, the rate schedule starts on 104.
Let's see, I don't know if I have that. Let's see.
You should. There are two documents as you normally have.
Right.
One is the utility rate schedule, and one is the fee schedule for the town. So I believe the fee schedule is first.
On 103.
I'm sorry,
The rate.
the utility rate schedule is first and starts on 104.
This is normally handled at our annual budget process, and so this year's a little unusual in that with a lot of the changes and the everything that's going on with the action taken by the council. So if I could just kind of walk everybody through, and then maybe we'll have some questions. So the initial changes addressing the fee schedule. Well, excuse me, let me start with the utility rate schedule. The only change there is to reflect the action that was taken by the council to allow us to charge the power cost adjustment for natural gas. So that's the only change there. So you'll see a new schedule on page 112. The only change to the utility fee schedule is on 112.
And Anthony, I believe that's highlighted in yellow for ease of read.
It is.
Thank you.
Everything that was changed was highlighted in yellow.
Excellent.
Now, do we have to go before the Utilities Commission,
No,
like some
sir.
towns? Because we call it a different name, is that the reason why?
Well, no, because we don't, we're not a member of the power agency.
Correct.
Okay. How long is this contract we have at Kings Mountain?
20 years.
20-year contract.
1-year
I
contract?
believe we signed it in 16.
Right before I came on.
I'm looking at Mr. Sutton.
It was taken January 1st of 2018.
18.
I think we signed it in 16.
20
It was
years.
effective
I
20
believe ours
years.
in particular is a 21 year. I think that puts us in.
Yeah, that could be, that could be.
Anthony, what are other municipalities charging? Like Greenville and Farmville and Aden? Per kilowatt, just curious.
I honestly don't know if they've made adjustments since the natural gas prices have changed. I'll certainly be glad to look into that.
Speaking of the comparison, hours.
Right, so in our normal budget process, we do present a comparison, and we're always very competitive. Sometimes we're higher, sometimes we're lower, depending on what adjustments we've made, based on operations. And, however, I can't sit here tonight and tell you I know what their rates are with everything that's going on. I know they've had tremendous, rate increases on the natural gas side at GUC, but I don't know what they have had on the electric side.
I saw the $250 versus $54. That's the high, when was that date? Or about the date of $54?
Roughly December 22nd, right before Christmas.
So it's come down to what this week?
We're in anywhere from the 350 range, somewhere in there, 350 to
350 range versus the 54. So it's come down
yeah.
a lot.
Historically, we were at $2.50 per MMBTU, and so it spiked, which we were told it would. But what we were told was actually in the $25 range, and so when we had that big spike around Christmas time, Duke had some rolling power outages that same period.
And I'd like to say for the record, if I could interrupt, Duke had rolling power outages. We did not turn off any of our customers in an effort to try to level the playing field, I'll say that. So the way that we currently buy power gives us the ability not to have to be subject to those things based off what a much larger utility wholesaler or somebody who sells it like Duke does.
Yeah, they can control demand by, what they call power shaving, and
Absolutely.
that reduces, when they have those rolling power outages, they save a lot of money by.
At one time, we had a generator across the street. Beside used to be the old barber shop, which is now a brewery. It just sat there on that property, and we used it as backup. Did we purchase that, something like that, for the generator? To help us at peak times? Is that in our contract?
I don't think that's in our, we would have to look in the contract and see. It would be a pretty
know
big
that-
undertaking to get a generator that would.
Are you talking about to operate the system?
To help operate the system at peak times. Some towns have done that.
I'm not sure that we have that flexibility.
About the size of a train car. It's set up across the street. We were able to shave the power at that time. Curious.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. The next question will be, what do you fuel it with, right? That's, and what's the cost of that fuel, so.
Got to come on up, Robert.
Come on down, the price is right.
Don't leave us
My partner
hanging.
over here, I will tell you, a lot of contracts are structured such that there's a limit. They'll term it load side generation, and there are limits on all the power agency members on what they can generate load side. And the reasoning for that is, when they're determining what the forecast will be in terms of load, it is very difficult to build plants, to build transmission, build distribution, when you don't know what will be required from your system being Duke or the Kings Mountain Energy Center. So that's very limited. And I believe in our contract, we're limited on what we can generate load side.
Bonnie's Cafe in Farmville has a generator behind it.
Very familiar.
And
I had one in places I've worked in the past, and they were used just to peak shave. But again, you're limited in what's available. And most of those load side generation numbers or allowances have been taken. I know that when former town I worked for, We pushed ours to about the 95 to 100% range, and you also have the capability of being fined or assigned additional fees if you exceed your load side generation.
Do you recommend us purchasing?
I never recommend anything without doing my homework.
I'm just curious.
Thank you.
So, that's, again, the one change there was associated with the action that the council had already taken. This is just updating the documentation to reflect action already taken by the council. So next, on the fee schedule, staff has some recommendations there. This fee schedule will eliminate the sewer acreage fee, which was, previously used for the system development fee that we had earlier tonight. And so this schedule adds that schedule. You'll see on page 118, the new schedule associated, and that's based on meter size. Other minor changes you'll see highlighted in yellow were just basically $50 to help cover additional costs associated with buying meters to get water to customers. And just basically taking what the market has given us and making sure we're not losing funds when we...
What does it cost to have underwater utilities in a business like across the street? At one time it was only $200 to have underground service. Is that going up on its fees?
Electric service?
Yes.
Yeah, so it's based on the delivery, it's based on the delivery points?
Well, Taco building across the street I used to own. The fee, if I went underground, was only $200. You couldn't do it for $200. So have we gone up in that fee at all?
We have, I believe, verbiage in here added so that if the costs are exceed it's a minimum. And so if the costs are exceeded, that our town staff can apply the workforce rates to recoup the cost.
Robert, comment?
Robert, you might as well come on up here.
In other words, I wanted to go underground, it's $200, that would fair for the town to go underground because
We built something into our rate schedule that allows us an opportunity if someone says, I'd like to extend something here, and obviously we have to get a boring contractor or something like that in. We have something built into our fee schedule where we can say, all right, for an example, I want to run a line a mile up a farm path. We're going to charge you the cost of the labor and materials plus 20%. And that's standard. I've done that in other places I've worked. We have a very good deal here. I've worked in places where on commercial entities, we made the commercial entity pay for their transformer up front. And the reason we did that is because we kept getting burned on people would open up, we'd sink a tremendous amount of money in a large transformer, and a year later they're out of business. And I can show you several places like that right now.
I paid Greenville Utilities in November $2,300. I still don't have power.
So our commercial underground per delivery point is 500.
Yes.
500.
Yep.
I paid them $2,300 to have underground service.
And I think it's $3 per foot after 150 feet.
But we are very good value.
This is my third month waiting to service, and they marked it off, and I'm supposed to prove it sometime this week when I get out there in the mud hole. Anyway, just comment.
Well, this is my opportunity. Encourage everyone to always look at Winterville Utilities for their sole source.
Thank you.
So again, those are the changes to the fee schedule.
If I may, before council takes a vote, as Anthony says, normally these are handled during the budgetary process. We will be back with some other changes outside of those that are being made tonight to fall in line with the changes that you've already approved in this system development fee and some of the subdivision ordinance changes. So again, when you see that come back during the budgetary process, there are some other fees and inspections, maybe Parks and Rec, I'm not exactly sure what they'll all be, but just tidying up and updating those as well. So you will see another version with some amendments in a few months.
Any motion to approve? Anthony? The motion we approve the fee and rate schedule.
Second.
Got a motion and a second on the floor. Motion made by Councilman Tony Moore, second by Councilman Paul Rice. Any discussion? With none being said, Terry, do the roll call.
Yes, sir. Councilwoman Harrell?
Yes.
Councilman Moore?
Yes.
Councilman Moy?
Yes.
Councilman Rice? I hear all votes in the affirmative to approve the rate and fee schedule, fee and rate schedules.
Okay, motion approved. Next up is ARP policy.
So the ARP policies, might have to ask Jessica to help on this depending on what the questions are, but basically the grant funding that we received, the stimulus money, $3.2 million, that has several policies that the UNC School of Government has recommended that we adopt. And basically we presented those to the council for approval. None of them were anything we weren't necessarily already doing. However, it's always good when you're applying for grants or having to deal with governmental regulatory agencies that you have everything documented and covered. So that's why we brought this item before tonight.
What page, 129?
129.
129.
Page 129.
Through 176, I
Yeah.
believe.
Any questions for either Anthony or Miss Jessica? At least I got y'all thinking, right?
Move for approval.
Got a motion? Paul, did you second it? Okay. Got a motion and a second. Motion made by Councilman Moore, second by Councilman Rice. Any discussion? If none, roll call, please.
Okay. Councilwoman Harrell?
Yes.
Councilman Moore?
Yes.
Councilman Moy?
Yes.
And Councilman Rice? I hear all votes in the affirmative to approve the ARP policies as presented.
Motion carry.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Great Point Motor rezoning. Budget.
Right.
Oh.
So the next item on the consent agenda was the budget amendment. And this is the fifth budget amendment for the year. Essentially, there were two items, three. The first one is associated with the agreement you have coming up later in the agenda for Wooten, the Wooten Company. This is our contract engineering firm, and due to the high volume of work that we've done over the past year, we have exceeded our general services contract for the year, and are looking to, still got a lot of work to do, so we don't want to stop right now in the middle of everything. And so we got together and determined that this $20,000 would be enough to get us through the rest of the fiscal year.
That's the reason I asked the question. I didn't say anything about the Wooten firm in this notation. It's page 177. Saw it not mentioned at all. Did we go with anybody other than the Rivers and Associates?
Well, there's two. So the Wooten Company is our general services contract. The Rivers and Associates is for $28,700 associated with a contract amendment that is also later on your agenda. And that item addresses the fact that we made changes. We're already under contract for this pump station project where we're increasing capacity at Chapman Street and Church Street. And that contract, we've made changes to the design by removing some screens that filter out debris from the system. And those items are about, I'm going to get to it later too, but I'll go ahead and say, those items, while it was an increase to cost of the contract of $28,700, the savings that we'll have is about $425,000.
Will this help price covenant grow? Did it add on to their?
It's going to help the whole town grow.
Specifically for this?
No, it's not specific for Christ Covenant.
No.
This is
Chapman Street also?
Chapman Street and Church Street pump stations. We're redesigning and to be able to get a lot more volume to our CMSD distribution.
When is this work to be done?
We're probably, so it's in the design phase right now. Once we make the final changes, it will have to go to be approved from the funding agency. And once that's done, it'll come back. But my understanding is a year and a half. From now, we'll probably start
Year and a half?
construction.
You don't anticipate it going up about before that time? Is this enough money?
Well, given the fact that everything, we haven't gone out for bid yet, so once we have that, we'll have a better understanding of where we actually sit with the actual cost.
This is just a additional funds, $20,000.
And the 20 is for the Wooten Company,
Right.
and the 28,700 is for Rivers and Associates.
If I could just remind council, sometimes the placement of these agenda items makes it a little challenging because we actually have the agenda items that you need to discuss associated with the budget amendment after the consent agenda. So we understand that it presents challenges from time to time. Unfortunately, it's a lot cleaner to have a budget amendment that incorporates all of the items that we need to amend the budget for in one document. So we do recognize that it can be challenging in terms of discussion.
Anthony, could you tell me the reason why that I see it because of the cost to remove the mechanical string? Those mechanical string, could you explain that to me? Is that the one that supposed to catch some of the?
Yeah, so I can try, Cliff and Blank, but essentially there's a big machine that as the sewer flows through the system, it pulls out rags and debris and anything that may be in there.
That's
and,
correct.
and then it sets it aside. So the new design would have what's called chopper blades.
Yeah. So what you have is, bar screens are great for a short period of time. We are not staffed, nor do we have the funds to maintain bar screens. They are very expensive to maintain, and it takes a lot of manpower to maintain them. So we met with CMSD, and they have screens when we pump into the force main.
Cliff,
Yes,
let me
ma'am.
interrupt you. Could you give a 2-second overview about why it's labor intensive?
Oh, everything on a bar screen is moving parts, okay? Hydrogen sulfide is probably the one most corrosive gases there are, and that's all that's in a sewer system. So although they make these screens and stuff out of mostly stainless steel parts, a lot of your motors that are explosion proof, there are still fail points. If the settings aren't exact, depending on what type of screen you go with, be it a spiral or multi-ray, they are just problematic. It's just the nature. I mean, when you're in that kind of environment, there's really nothing they can be able to hold up. So we decided to go with grinder pumps, which take these solids. They can handle up to 3-inch solids. They emulsify it and send it down the stream. So Chuck has bar screens at his new station. So for the towns, we met with Chuck and talked about it. There's no need for us to screen it and then, incorporate more staff, more manpower, more money. When he can screen it, he already has the things, the proper parts in place. So we can chop it. The chopper pumps are a lot cheaper and they last a whole lot longer. So that's why, from a labor standpoint and a monetary standpoint, they're just, where I worked, before I came here, we spent $7 million on a bar screen project. It lasted a year and a half.
So what are you using now? Where you come
We're looking to move to
I'm talking
a type of, sir?
Where you came from, what are they using now? They're using
Chopper
the same,
pumps.
the chopper pumps. Okay. And you saw the results on that, how long? What span?
That went, those bar screens that were put in only lasted right at 2 years.
Bar string, bar string, I'm talking about the chopper.
The choppers?
Yes.
Oh, we've had choppers in place. Some of those have been in for 10, 15 years. We even went as far as to put grinders, had the inverts on the pump stations to grind up the solids.
Yes.
So that there again, the chopper pumps could handle even more solids because the bar screens were failing. We took 6 bar screens out of service in the 8 years I was there. Thank you.
Thank you.
So the third item on the budget amendment addresses the cost of new water meters. With the increased growth, our standard budget that we started out with at the beginning of the fiscal year is just not going to make it. The good news is we have the growth. The bad news is we need to do a budget amendment to get new meters. So some of that will include some of our big commercial as well as multifamily that's coming on board rather fast.
Move to approve, but I'd like to include in this budget amendment on number 4, and include number 1, old business, at the same time. That's what you've already discussed it already.
You wanted to vote, you want to vote on,
Both those at the same time. Contract, budget amendment number 4, and number 1, old business, just at the same time.
You mean 1 and 2? Because 1 and 2 both are
Both for the-
incorporated into the budget
Yes,
amendment.
yes, 1 and 2 and 4.
4 under consent.
Yep.
Right.
Make sure you
Make a
motion.
motion, 1, 2, and 4 be, make a motion to approve those items.
So just to make sure, this is approving the contract for the Wooten Company for general services contract. It's approving $28,700 for Rivers and Associates for the sewer project, and then it's including $37,500 for additional meters.
Is
And the motion will,
The whole
the
sheet,
budget
in other
order.
words, it's all on one sheet too.
Approving the budget order, a budget amendment, I'm sorry,
approving the budget amendment
plus
the contracts
two
themselves.
contracts.
So as I understand it, we're approving consent item number 4 in its entirety and old business items 1 and 2 in their
Correct,
entirety.
that's all in the same motion.
Right.
Just make sure the minutes get that.
You got that?
Got it.
Okay.
You ready?
I'm ready. You got a motion on the floor,
Second.
and Paul seconded? Okay, all right. A motion made by Tony Moore, second by Paul Rice. Any discussion? Okay, if not, call for the vote.
Okay. Councilwoman Harrell?
Yes.
Councilman Moore?
Yes.
Councilman Moy?
Yes.
And Councilman Rice. All votes in the affirmative of the motion as presented.
Okay, motion passed. Thank you, Anthony.
Thank you. Thank you, Robert. Thank you, Cliff.
Now, we get down to Brian Jones. I think you're up.
I stand ready for any questions.
Brian, how many people showed up for this public, the earlier planning and zoning?
For which one we talking about?
Earlier
Talk
talk-
about the
Great
Lynn
Point.
Brock Best property.
It's hard to say. That meeting was both of these you see on the agenda. It was pretty much standing room
Standing
only
room
in this
only.
room. So we had a good amount of people. I would say specifically for that one, probably a handful to a dozen folks. And then the remainder of the folks in the room would probably have been Waterford rezoning.
Yeah, you had two projects.
That's right.
What were some of the comments against it, just for information purposes?
For which one are we talking about again?
The property that, Linda Brock Best property.
So are we talking about staff comments or people speaking?
People comments. Let's go
So
back to number 5, Great Point Motors.
So we're talking about Great Point Motors. You know, it'd be really hard for me to be exact, but I'll paraphrase. I think there was probably 2 people that stood up and spoke against it. Adjacent property owners saying that a business like that, a car dealership with an auto mechanic shop would detract from the feel of the neighborhood.
Was that the same property that goes around that house?
Yes, sir. It's the,
Rear Proof Apartments?
That's right. Yep.
They couldn't get funding?
that's right.
Will they have access to Depot, Chapman Street only?
Yes.
Move for approval of the number 4.
It would be number 5.
Number 5.
4 and 5.
And this, just as a point of clarification, is
5 and 6. We'll do 5 and 6 at the same time.
5 and 6 at the same time, and it's only to schedule the public hearings for March 13th.
That's right.
Only the public hearing, right.
Only public hearing.
Right. Who seconded?
Did you second it? Okay, all right. I had a motion to approve 4 and 5, Great Point Motors.
5 and 6.
I mean, 5 and 6, Great Point Motors rezoning public hearing on March 13th, and Waterford Crossing rezoning public hearing on March the 13th. Any discussion? If not, roll call.
Okay, Councilwoman Harrell,
Yes.
Councilman Moore,
Yes.
Councilman Moy,
Yes.
Councilman Rice. I hear all votes in the affirmative to set those public hearing dates as presented.
Okay. Motion carried. So, public hearing date on March the 13th. Okay. All right, now we move down to the old business. You got electric rate discussion, number 3, and discussion of town council rules and procedures, number 4.
Okay, item number 3, I believe we have Mr. Sutton, I believe we have Mr. Bowers, I believe we have Ms. Manning.
A lot of tall people here tonight. First, to respond to a question Councilman Moore asked a few minutes ago about the load-side generation, Anthony had asked me to look into it as quick as I could and pull the contract. We are limited and with no ability to put load-side generation on our system, and that is in large part due to what we discussed earlier. The contract and the plan itself are going to require almost a guaranteed allotment, and it's very difficult to build a plant and size it when you have people that are generating their own power. So that's one of the reasons why, but we do not have an allowance in our contract for load-side generation.
How many towns are involved?
I think total now, we're up to 9, I believe. We've had some come on board as well from South Carolina.
Will we communicate with other towns about what they're doing about their rate schedule?
I have not. I look at neighboring communities just to see how we compare.
But I'm talking about the other 8.
Yes, we
Oh, yes, constantly,
consistently, yes.
constantly, and they've all had to adjust as well.
How much have they done?
It varies. I can tell you that we had one member that raised their rate initially, and unfortunately, they did not raise it enough, and they had to go back a second time and raise it again, and that was a large member, and that was difficult for a lot of their citizens to accept.
The largest one right above Raleigh, that's Charlotte.
It was large. It was. And that is what we have worked very hard not to do. We have worked very hard. I assure everyone here, staff absolutely detest having to pass a rate increase like this on to our customers. Our customers, a lot of them are our family and our friends, so it's difficult to do. I've never done this in 34 years. But, how about some good news? The good news is, in looking at the forward curves, they appear to be adjusting down and adjusting down quickly. In no way does that mean they will stay there. As we've seen in the past, it is truly a global economy at this point, and something that happens in a country as formerly as obscure as Ukraine can have a direct and immediate impact on Winterville, and that's what we've seen take place. We have been very fortunate. The good Lord's blessed us. We've had a mild winter, which has kept our rates and our demand down and our demand low. Our hope and our projections are that will continue. However, it can change in a blink of an eye with Arctic Vortex 4.0. So we are hoping and praying we don't see that. And the opportunity for that is starting to dwindle. And hopefully within the next 45 days, we're going to see that window close.
Tonight to use for that $10 million we have extra money, make a motion tonight to give the people a reduction of 20%. But I'm listening.
Councilman Moore, was that a motion?
Well, let's set the debate.
Okay.
I would like to we got $10 million, with 118% fund balance, required by law to have 8%. And I feel for our senior citizens on limited income.
Well, Councilman Moore, for clarification purposes, we're talking 2 different funds.
Right.
I realize that.
So that's critically important in the terms of discussion of finances.
I understand.
So, Robert, can you tell me exactly, or Anthony, compared to where we are at now, compare with the increase that we made, always stable?
This is a great segue for our assistant town manager.
Don't go nowhere. So obviously last month was just brutal.
Yes.
And unfortunately, it just we still, with the power cost adjustment, we still took a loss for the month. And,
37,000.
sir?
37,000
37, that's right.
a month.
For the month. But, annually, I sent council information earlier showing that, overall, so I'd kind of take this back a little bit for the audience. Since the volatility has, come upon us with the natural gas prices, we've used $2.2 million in budget amendments to keep the rates as stable as possible. And so currently this year, we've used roughly, we're $711,000 off the top of my head in the negative in the electric fund.
So Anthony, could I just get you to clarify that, since I believe it was June of last year?
Yes.
We have amended the
Yes,
budget
right.
in the electric fund, $2.2 million to keep on staying in a good way,
That's
financial
correct.
way.
That's just on purchase for resale.
That's correct. However, from July 1st to date, we are $711 some odd thousand in the hole.
Correct.
And we went up on our rates, what month?
I believe they took effect in October.
Over.
So if you recall, the strategy at that point was to get through March and April, make sure we, because March, you never know with March in North Carolina if you're going to get, I think it was 1980, I guess, when we had the worst snowfall everybody can remember. So
Don't want that.
yeah, we don't want to go there. So I'm liking the warm temperatures that we're having right now. So it's important that I feel like it's important that we stay consistent at least for a little bit longer, keep an eye on the market, make sure we get through this period of time for when we know we can have these cold snaps, because all it took was 4 days last time. It's just 4 days. The rest of the month was perfect. So
Utilities that we cut off this past month. 1974, I turned off myself one of every 7 residents.
yeah, we probably didn't have that kind of.
Yeah, 860 customers.
You don't have them. Yeah.
How many?
Yeah, all but, so
How many?
56 to 60 range on the cutoff list, and all of them but 15 were back on the same day.
Same day. How many were senior citizens?
I have no idea.
But I will say 56 customers out of the entire customer base that we have is
10,000.
unbelievable compared to what other jurisdictions are doing. I think that's a testament to staff as a whole, finance, electric, everyone who has a hand in working with customers and trying to, help lessen the pain as much as possible. 56 in an entire town of over 10,000, that's huge.
Explain that, Ms. Robertson's not here tonight. What was that kind of funding that she was getting people to ask for the applications?
So we have been looking at a variety of methods and entities that offer assistance to citizens who might need help in paying their utility bill. In this coming newsletter, you'll see an entire, it's just not utility bill related, but you'll see the entire sheet that finance put together of assistance, those entities and agencies that offer assistance. That will be an additional sheet along with the newsletter, and our website has that same sheet on it. The latest agency that has some assistance for some of our residents is through United Healthcare. That is not available to everyone. You have to meet certain criteria. But we've tried to put phone numbers and contact information with all of those entities such that people can try to reach out to those that might be able to help in their certain circumstances.
There was something about a card.
Yes, they
It's
offer.
like a credit card.
They offer a Q card.
Q card.
It's available for not just utility bills, for several different types of things. But we do have a number and representatives to send folks to if they have questions.
I would like to take a moment to plug our assistance
Thank you.
program.
Yes, absolutely.
So thanks to Carolina Power Partners and Green Lamp, as well as the town of Winterville, all work together. It was established at $85 credit based on income. But honestly, we're a little disappointed in the participation at this point. We've had it out there for a little while, and I think we've only had 9 customers use it at this point. So we've been a little bit disappointed or surprised. You know, I'm glad that people don't need it, but if they do need it, I'd like for them to take advantage of it.
Absolutely.
So we do have, that's an $85 credit for 1 year based on income,
And that's
based on
dealing-
need. What was-
You didn't finish, go ahead.
I was just saying it's based on need, and it's normally the criteria, we have an application, they can contact customer service. We'll be glad to share it with them, and normally it's the minimum was 200% of the poverty level. So if your income is under 200% of the poverty level, and it was not established at poverty level on purpose so that we could try to get people who don't normally get assistance, who are like on the fringe, and so we wanted to try to get more involvement from those people as well. But we're, again, maybe, you know, we'll keep pushing it and marketing it, and hopefully people will start working with us on it.
But Anthony, what I was going to say is that's the town's only source of specific assistance in terms of monetary assistance. So
That's correct.
that is the program we're working collectively on, so.
Well, I was going to say, this past week, I spent 5 days with elected officials from all the way from the farthest end, North Carolina, from the mountains, all the way back to the coast, 23 of us in a room all week long. And basically, everybody's talking about this electric rates and everything. And, you know, everybody's feeling the pinch, you know. But, you know, we have something in place. A lot of people don't even have stuff in place for their residents, you know. And so I'm thankful that we do have stuff in place, you know, and just listening to them talk about it, you know, so we're doing good in a sense, helping our residents, you know, where, like I said, some of the other ones, they don't have anything right now, so.
Anthony, the one that you just got to speaking of with the green, you say green lamp? Okay, and that's the one that the town administrating part of?
Green Lamp, yes, we're in conjunction with Green Lamp and Carolina Power Partners,
What is the total amount that we receive?
$25,000.
And if we do not absorb the whole 25,000, what will happen to the rest?
Well, there's no stipulations on that. It has to be used for electric Winterville customers only. So it can't go to GUC and it can't go to Aiden. It's only for our customers. And that was basically the stipulation. They didn't say, you know, you have to use it in X number of days, but they are looking to make an annual contribution of that amount. And so what you don't want to do is have fun sitting there and they ask you, you know, how much got used, and we only used 15,000, and then, you know, so we want to take advantage of the full amount for sure.
And I would love to see the town people in Winterville take advantage of it, because if you know, we got some customers like myself that's on GUC that is a part of this town, but we're on GUC, so, you know, I'm advising, I'm hoping that people that are listening, well, I mean, we'll take advantage of this. Absolutely. Because, you know, it's something.
And I also say
I'm dealing with it myself. I'm not immune from it like anybody else.
Our standard practices is if you have a good credit with the town, and you have a good paying history, you can qualify for extensions. But you have to qualify. So if you're, you know, a late payer, you know, every other month, you're not going to qualify. But if you're the customer that, you know, is maybe late once a year, and everybody makes mistakes, you know, we're not going to, you know, and you need an extension. Normally, we'll extend it through the end of the month because a lot of people get assistance at the beginning of the month, and so we'll give them extra 3 to 5 days, or through the 3rd or the 5th of the next month. So normally the bills are normally due on the 26th, depending on what cycle you're on. Our big cycle is normally scheduled for the 26th.
On the first one, you said it was $85 per customer. I think that was the first one with the card.
No, that's the program we have.
That's our program. The card is through United Healthcare Systems.
Yes.
And I think it depends on what plan you're in.
That's correct.
And we have no control over what they offer.
But ours is $25, I mean, 80.
85.
$85.
$85
For one time a year.
one time a year, only one time per customer. And it's not based on your income,
It is based on your income.
It is.
Yes, sir. It's based on need. Yes, sir.
based on need and income.
And that's what Green Lamp's doing for us. They're vetting, they're using their procedures and processes in place to help vet the people who apply.
Yeah, so we didn't want their personal information as far as income and stuff like that. We didn't want to have access to that. So that's why Green Lamp is an intermediary in that regard.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Anthony.
You're welcome.
Report.
Discussion of town council rules and procedures.
So this item was put on the agenda as Councilwoman Robertson mentioned the need to discuss this item further and how we want to proceed moving forward. What we did send council in their agenda packet is a policy and procedure manual, if you will, that was adopted 8th day of September 2008. What we will specifically call your attention to, which is the basis of tonight's discussion, is Rule 20, and that relates to vacancies on the board, primarily meaning council. You will see that there are 2 paragraphs to that policy. The first talks about when a vacancy occurs, that the seat be filled by the candidate from the previous election with the next highest number of votes who is eligible and willing to serve. The person will be appointed, blah, blah, blah. And then there's a second paragraph that talks about if a candidate from the previous election, eligible and willing to serve, is not available, then what would happen? And it talks about basically we revert to what's similar related to our volunteer boards and commissions. That is what the policy currently says. That has been the policy of discussion. And with that said, I'm going to turn it over to Keen to kind of guide this.
We have, as Terry has read over the current Rule 20 that you have, I think there's been some discussion over the last couple of months about maybe changing that. I mean, I've heard either doing away with it completely or modifying it, improving it. And of course, staff will take whatever direction you send us, and that's what we'll do. If you would like to have the rule improved with new language, we just need some guidance to sort of know what you're thinking or what your concerns are, and then we'll go with it and bring back something to you for you to review and approve. Did I hit everything? And I'll say this, there's been some discussion of policy versus ordinance, which has been hit on a little bit recently. This whole manual is a group of policies. And I feel pretty confident, or certainly my recommendation, that we leave 99.9% of it intact as a policy. I don't think you want to approve the whole thing as an ordinance. I think that would be cumbersome or unnecessary. I've looked through here recently, and honestly, if there would be one area that you want to consider making an ordinance, it's probably just this Rule 20. However, it's my recommendation that we think seriously about doing that. I don't know that we'd want to take a policy and change it into an ordinance. The difference is a policy is something that acts as guidance. An ordinance is our version of a law. It's just like what Raleigh does. They approve a statute that's a law. You have to follow it no matter what. If we make this rule into an ordinance, you would have to follow it. And I would just say, and I'll be quiet, we've seen recently just there's so many considerations that go into filling a vacancy. If you make it into an ordinance, there's no, you've got no room to maneuver, if you will. So again, I would caution us against making Rule 20 into an ordinance, but I I know Ms. Robinson has some thoughts about it, and she's, of course, not here tonight to express those. So, anyways, that's it for me, I guess. If, look to y'all to give us some guidance on what
I'd
you
just
would
like,
to do.
I didn't mean to cut you off, King.
Sure,
I'd
no,
just
yes,
like to
sir.
see it cleaned up, reworked a little bit, and made more clear, more clarity, and put a close on it.
So, if I may, we can certainly work on that, but that is going to be a challenge. And as we've seen from the last vacancy, it could depend on many things, such as including when the last election was, how close it is to the next election. If an appointment's already been made, then what happens, et cetera. So, I mean, we can give it our good old best shot, but again, it will be difficult to cover every scenario.
But if you do it at an ordinance, just say that the language that we have here available, could it simplify it to a point whereas it happened in the past that we went by this guideline? And
You don't have the most recent one.
that's not
The
much.
one in your packet is the most recent one.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
All right, I'm
It's
looking
on
at,
It's on page
Page
225.
225.
But if I may be direct, if that policy was already an ordinance,
go ahead.
if the policy was an ordinance, Dr. Harrell could not have been sworn in tonight.
Right. True.
I'm just making
Well,
that
and that
as
is
a
true.
point of
Right.
discussion.
That is true. But I can say this, I don't believe that we would have went through so many challenges. Because we went through a lot to get where we're at today.
It's not the first time that there have been challenges to the policy. It's almost, sometimes I think the sitting board, it would be easier for the sitting board at the time just to decide what they want to do at that particular point in time, because to try to have a policy or an ordinance that covers every possible scenario would be challenging at best. And then sometimes you back yourself into law that might not carry through with what that particular sitting board intended. It's just a thought.
It's only happened
Mark,
1 out of
wait.
6 times. We've had, since I've been on the board, we've had 6 vacancies. We've only followed the rule 1 time. Just twice. Of the 5 times we did not.
Would it take it out of the council hand and say to the public, to say, you have an input into this decision? If you had a policy, if you had an ordinance, similar to what I'm speaking on with this rule number 20.
If it was an ordinance?
Yes.
The public would have less input than they do as a policy and/or no policy at all.
But you would go back to the last election, with the last election, right?
Assuming that there is a candidate from the previous election eligible and willing to serve.
Yes.
Suppose you had someone who had a debilitating stroke but still wanted to serve. Even though it wasn't as good health. Suppose you had a candidate who had moved out temporarily and then moved back in the last 30 days. Now, all kinds of public, the judgment of this board you elected to, it's just another vote. We don't take it personal. The best we can do every time we vote. Things change all the time.
Well, it's just my opinion, and that was the reason why I believe in the wording that we have in Rule 20, and the way that I did stress my opinion when we did what we done is because I was looking at that our citizen had an input. By you having a candidate going out and working and have the candidate had the opportunity to meet the citizen. Even though they lost, but they do have some ideas of what they believe in, what they look like, had the opportunity to compensate. But when you have just a guideline like we had, it was just open start, and then placed it on this board, and then the board, we was arguing, saying, this is who I want. But I represent the community. I don't represent, I work with this board, but I represent the community. And when I heard their voice, even though a section didn't win, but they don't quit. It's an opportunity, it might comes up like it did.
Well, then if it's an ordinance based off that policy right there, then who this board, well, who was sworn in tonight, Councilwoman Harrell, would not be sitting here.
But I'm talking about pass forward. That's what I'm speaking of.
Well,
And that's, I'm just saying, that's just what I believe in. I think that it would clear up a lot of confusion. It won't hinder our business, and we know exactly who's next in line.
Well, what I was going to, I'm sorry, you finished, Johnny?
Yes, sir.
All right. What I was going to say, basically, Rule 20, we follow Rule 20. All we need to do is just clean up some of the language in Rule 20, as I stated before. When we started this whole process, I stated we follow Rule 20 by electing Councilman Rice, but we had something that came up which was very unusual, to have someone else to lead the board. But again, we just got to fine-tune that a little bit. And I don't know how we're going to fine-tune.
That's going to be the challenge.
That's going to be the challenge, how we fine-tune this. And that's where the guidance come in. I'm hoping King can help us somehow. I'm just saying, somehow. I don't know how, but somehow.
Sure.
Just to clean it up.
I certainly think town manager and myself can put our heads together and work on modifying it. The main thing I need from the council is to sort of give me the direction.
Exactly.
In other words, here's where we sort of want you to go. These are our concerns, and then we'll start drafting you something.
Well, that goes back now, and as a council, it gives some scenarios, and let y'all look at these scenarios, to this approach. Each council member send y'all the scenarios that y'all like to see.
Are you looking at a policy or on it?
I'm looking at the policy.
I know the policy.
Right here, this same policy, but just cleaning it up. And it could be fixed. I don't want to see it being an ordinance, because then you kind of back yourself in a corner. Isn't that correct, King? An ordinance would kind of back you.
Yeah, I would, it can be either, but I think it would be a mistake. I'll use the word mistake to make it an ordinance. I think it's better to leave it as a policy, but that's my opinion. If the board wants to, the council wants to send us an email with like, here are my thoughts, that way we can all sort of think about it. It's not like you got to tell us this moment.
That would be excellent.
And we'll be glad to receive those over the next week or so, and then we'll start working on a modification of Rule 20.
And that's
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, and that's what I was trying to get at. I was just saying, that way everybody can put their input in it. Y'all can look at it.
Sure, that'd
get
be
back
great.
with us.
That'd be excellent.
And then that way we can come back, see where we go. Yes, sir.
Well, let's go back to the same question that we asked the attorney. Even though if we go in and clean it up, we can clean it up, but as long as we leave it as a policy, even though we clean it up, we still can go back and change it, right?
Correct.
Right.
So you can clean it up all you want to, but you're still going to be right back where you're at today.
potentially.
Potentially.
But still, though, I mean, as, I think you, I'm not thinking for you, but the thing of it is, each board that comes up here can change it. And so, you don't, I mean, you may not, I ain't saying you won't be here. You know, the next board could, say, I don't like that.
And theoretically, if it's an ordinance, the future board can change that
You can
too.
change that too.
Well,
It just is a little more
Okay.
formal.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure I understand exactly what is being said and done about cleaning it up. If we clean it up, I'm thinking that once we go in there and clean it up, that it's already set in stone, but it's not. It's still a policy.
So I would like to say that basically, when we go in and improve the language, it will be set forth as it is now a guiding principle and not an ordinance, correct?
Unless
Well,
you all vote otherwise.
Right, that's ultimately up to the decision of the council, which direction you want to go. But yes, ma'am, I think that's what staff is sort of saying, let's modify it in the way that the council wants it modified to improve it, but to leave it as a policy.
I agree. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Any other discussion before we move on?
Mayor, I will reach out with an email to council just to sort of say, here's what we discussed tonight, and please submit your thoughts. Excellent, thank you.
Yes, because we want to make sure Ms. Robinson has her
Absolutely, yes,
input,
yes,
you know.
yes,
And
absolutely.
again, I do apologize for not even saying that she wasn't here tonight. She was out due to illness.
Yes.
Please forgive me for not saying that earlier. All right. New business.
Okay. It is now 9 o'clock. If we'd started at 6, we'd be going home with our closed session at 8. Other boards are going to 6. Our Rotary Club is going to 6 o'clock for its board meetings. Is a public that's home. I like to get home a little earlier. I can go to sleep earlier. My bedtime is 9:30. I'm gonna have to leave here any minute, and as an older senior citizen say, but anyway, at least consider the idea of going to 6 o'clock meetings versus 7. City of Greenville has 6 o'clock meetings also. Your planning board, is it 6 also?
Yes,
What
6.
do you say, Mayor? What's your opinion, 6 and 7? Just your opinion at the top of your head.
I wouldn't mind on going to 6 myself, but, it's consensus of the board. I mean, I can get here whatever time. If you want to go 5:30, I go 5:30.
Paul?
I can agree with 6 o'clock.
Well, I make a motion. that we-
Well, you didn't hear me, Mr. Moore. Well, I was getting ready to say is, do we need to get input from our citizens?
Well, they'll come at whatever time we have it, just prolongs it.
I was just asking.
Yeah, but we had not asking the citizens about this ordinance, we just had either. Didn't ask for any input in that issue.
And this is just a thought off the top of my head. Of course, you have the right to set your meeting at whatever time you want. You approve your meeting dates and times, when we do that, when?
We did it in January, I believe, or maybe December.
For the coming year.
It was December.
If you're inclined to change it, and I defer to Terry on this, whether you want to, if you were to vote on it tonight and make it sort of effective 2 months out, you can sort of have a month to announce what's coming, so it won't be effective like March, it might be effective in April, just a thought.
That would be helpful, then that way we could get it out on all social media, et cetera.
I make a motion, we move toward our meetings, beginning in May to 6 o'clock.
Okay. Have a motion on the floor made by Councilman Tony Moore, second by Councilman Rice, to change our meeting time from 7 p.m. to 6 p.m. Any discussion? Yes, Mr. Moore?
I still say that I think we need to have some input from the community. To get their input, send out some sort of survey or something. At least get their comments. Or to do something. Just don't change our time like that. It's just my belief.
You finished?
Yes.
Okay. So we have a motion on the floor. We'll go to the vote.
I will start with Councilwoman Harrell.
Yes.
Councilman Moore.
Yes.
Councilman Moy.
No.
Councilman Rice. I see that we have vote 3 in favor and 1 against, moving the time change to 6 o'clock. Motion passes.
Motion carried. That will be
That will-
2 months out.
That begin in the May
May
meeting.
May. Y'all don't smile over there. I know you're
Somebody put me up
busting.
to it, I'm not gonna say.
Busting with a smile on the inside over there.
Mayor, can I tag on to something
Yes, ma'am.
related to that? You'll see down in the announcements, number 5, I am planning to institute in March what is called an agenda review meeting.
Okay.
It's my meeting, but it's an invitation to council to come the Thursday before every meeting at 4 o'clock and it's not mandatory, of course, but it's to offer anyone who wants to come in and talk about something on the agenda, ask questions, get more information, et cetera. Janice Gallagher, county manager, does that now, and I think she believes it's really successful. We've talked a lot about it, and I would like to offer that to council. What she does and what I would like to do is to advertise it as a public meeting, even though it's not a council meeting, but just in case if we have a quorum, we can still continue that meeting without fear of violating any open meetings law. So what I would like to do is get council to vote to move forward with a schedule for every Thursday, except for July, we don't meet. We take that month off. At 4 o'clock to hold these agenda review meetings. We will send out a calendar to council, but if you all approve this schedule tonight in a regular meeting, that meets our announcement criteria. We will continue to put the meeting schedule out and the notices out like we do with our meetings, but if you approve it tonight, then what that does is allow us to have said that we approved it in a regular meeting. Thank you.
Make a motion to approve that idea.
Got a motion? Do I have a second? Okay. Got a motion and a second to include the town manager's agenda review. Not gender reveal, but gender review.
Correct. We will reveal it shortly before.
Okay. Any discussion?
Before at 4.
I'm gonna just say for discussion, when I was on the planning board, we used to have sort of the same thing that we would meet prior to going out. Prior to our meetings, we would go out and tour what was being discussed on the planning board agenda. And it was very helpful. We would go out on a Monday. Our meeting was on a Thursday. We'll go out on a Monday and see the sites, and so that everybody be familiar with what was going on. And I thought it to be very helpful to people that didn't understand what side of the county something was going on. So it kind of made it easier, and then it made the meeting go a little bit quicker because you kind of have all your questions
That's why I thought it might be
together,
in conjunction
so
with this.
that we don't have to be here till 9 o'clock. You already have all your questions together. So with that being said, roll call.
Okay.
Everybody can come.
Yes, it's open to all council. Again, it's not mandatory, but again, I think it'll just help us be more informed moving forward. And I will start with Councilwoman Harrell.
Yes.
Councilman Moore.
Yes.
Councilman Moy.
Yes.
Councilman Rice. Thank you. All votes in favor. And again, we will get you the meeting schedule. I feel that will be an opportunity for us. There'll be a couple of unwritten rules, like you can't talk about who's going to vote, that kind of thing. We'll discuss those. But I think it'll be a good thing. Thank you.
Is the public invited?
Motion carried.
Is the public invited?
It is theoretically a public meeting. I mean, if the public wants to come, that's fine, but this is really tailored for council.
But they are invited.
If they would like to come, they are more than welcome to listen, but there'll be no public comment,
No
there'll be no
comments, no
public
nothing.
interaction. It is strictly for council. Thank you.
Okay, all right. Any more?
Future agenda.
Yeah,
I have one item. I was called by the assistant engineer for the roads for this area. He asked me for the town's help with the new signs for the South Central. And the road, 4 lines road for the South Central is in nobody's land, nobody's area. So I would like to have a meeting that we can think about, talking with the city of Greenville. We'll be able to annex the road in front of South Central all the way to the intersection of Proctor Road.
So Councilman Moore, unfortunately, I'm not sure that we now have the legal authority to do such.
But then discuss with them.
Well, I don't know that the law allows us for an involuntary annexation of
No,
a,
I'm just saying that. That's the city of Greenwood too. It used to be, it's just a road.
right.
Remember one time we got sued, we annexed the road, Mill Street, and went to the left.
Part of the right of way.
And the railroad track.
That may have been before my time, but
Yeah, we did, and we had a suit against us, and we
I have
won
to
it.
defer to
I
county
mean,
attorney.
I think it's, if you want to put it on for a future meeting, and I'll do a little more homework on it, but you're right, they changed the law that because some towns were being very creative, we would have never done anything like this, by the way, but some towns were being very creative to annex roads to get the property so they could annex the property. And they changed the law to try to prevent that. However, if we in Greenville were working together on it and had an understanding, I don't know that it'd be something that somebody raised too much sand over it. But
I don't know if Brian has
It's in
anything.
somebody's jurisdiction. The principal is concerned about the safety of the kids. Greenwood enforce it.
I was
We can't
pretty,
enforce it.
I was pretty sure Highway Patrol, it was in their jurisdiction.
It
But
is.
they're
Highway
saying they're
Patrol's
not going to do it.
jurisdiction.
The
Well,
engineer.
now that's different than it not being in their
The engineer
jurisdiction.
told me that he has asked for our help, and the principals, one of the principals, I didn't talk to the newest principal,
okay.
but they have a problem with people parking. They got new signs up there, but nobody can enforce the signs. And if one child gets run over, I brought this up tonight, so it's before it's done, we just, the hindsight. But see, years ago, we talked to Greenville about annexing, the left side's us, the right side's theirs, after the creek. Jurisdiction.
Oh,
Yeah, across the stream.
Yes.
The right side there. But nobody has jurisdiction over the road. So what happens when you have an accident? Chief, is it?
Highway Patrol is the one that comes out when they have an accident out there. Usually it's the Highway Patrol with assistance from our Winterville police officers that they're in the area, and also Greenville police officers that usually over at South Central.
Right.
And for me, I don't understand why they don't enforce it, because they sitting right there at the school. They got 2 resource officers right there with Greenville police cars, and they park right in front of the school on the Greenville side. So they should be enforcing it.
When I went feed my burro last night, I saw one of the police officers sitting in the driveway at the school. But I should have told him, I thought faster. The signs don't look official. When I called Randy Dabb years ago for D.H. Connolly, put up signs, he got ordinance signs. Those signs in front of South Central, I've never seen anything like it. And you, Chief, that's the part of the problem. I think the engineer, if he calls me back, I need to say, look, we need to have a different kind of sign. Maybe people will believe it's real. It doesn't say anything about ordinance, about parking, no parking. It's something I've never seen before. No standing, walking, whatever. Anyway, just a discussion item at a later date. And just in the meantime, somebody talk to Greenville, see if it's in our area. Sorry.
I just didn't know if Brian had anything to add
I'm
to the
sorry,
whole
Brian.
annexation.
Obviously, I defer to legal counsel on this, but this has come up in prior conversations when we're annexing property, specifically when we're dealing with the emergency services and their jurisdiction and ability to respond. So this wasn't just for a road right-of-way, but we contacted the School of Government. Freda Bluestein responded this way: a municipality has no authority to adopt a resolution or petition itself under this part for annexation of property it does not own or have any legal interest in. For the purpose of this subsection, a municipality has no legal interest in a state-maintained street unless it owns the underlying fee and not just an easement. Now, the attorney can tell you exactly what that means, but in layman's terms, that means we can't annex the right of way.
We have the left side of the road already.
No,
So-
we don't have any, I don't think we have any of that road.
So in a situation where you already have one side of the road and you're getting the other, then you have the ability to get the road right away. Now, just going to do a quote-unquote shoestring annexation where you're just getting the road right away, that's been legally knocked down, so you can't do that anymore.
And they, because so many people were doing it and creating so much trouble, I mean, hey, we did it a number of times to our great advantage, by the way, but the General Assembly passed a law that said you can't do that.
Sure.
So the real, I think, the question, as an attorney, you always asked, if you do something, who's going to oppose it? So I think the best thing to do, put it on agenda, we'll look at it, and maybe if we talk to Greenville, and if it becomes advantageous to do it, we'll talk to Greenville and see how we can work it out. But
Put it on the agenda, that's all I ask.
Okay.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you, Brian.
All right, announcements.
Okay, Donald?
Okay, next week, we have scheduled planning and zoning and the Board of Adjustments, and I don't think there's any items on the agenda, so those will be canceled. In Relations Board, we have Thursday, February the 23rd, Recreation Advisory Board. Excuse me, I had my mic off. Recreation Advisory Board on Tuesday, February the 28th. We've already discussed the item of the Town Manager Agenda Review meeting, and your next meeting is on March the 13th.
Making the first Town Manager Agenda Review meeting on March 9th at 4 p.m.
Okay.
9 to 7, please.
Yes,
Oh,
sir.
yes.
I put it on my
Absolutely.
calendar, but, you know,
Absolutely.
all of us.
Setting.
At 4.
Okay. All right, report from the town attorney.
Mayor, I have no report per se, but just to remind you, we changed your agenda that we do have a closed session. I've got two items to discuss with you. I don't think it'll take very long.
Okay,
Thank you.
all right.
Happy Valentine's to everybody, by the way, tomorrow.
Absolutely.
All right. We're going to start with our newest, and she's the lady on the council with us tonight. You have anything you'd like to say?
I do. I decided that there was really no time to waste, and I do understand some of the needs of the town, so I researched a grant to help with resiliency and dealing with the drainage and flood mitigation, and that is a grant through Duke Energy Resilience Accelerated Program. And so there is a webinar, and I did speak with Terry briefly and to get her that information so we can potentially apply for that grant. That grant will be in the amount of $65,000. Thank you.
Mr. Moore?
Only thing I'd like to say is, means if you do not have your cars and your candy, you might have to sleep on the couch. So please, talking to Johnny Moore too, make sure you got your candy and your car. So we can say Happy Valentine to our wife and to our,
Where's the wisdom?
yes, sir.
Okay. Councilman Rice?
Great Super Bowl. Wish everybody
All right. Tony?
Everybody have a happy Valentine's Day, and good health with y'all. I'm sorry, Ms. Robertson emailed today. We had a good turnout yesterday at the museum, full of good writers. It was a good program. As a former history teacher, I loved it. And we're a very blessed community over the years. Any good things were said yesterday about people who lived, that grew up in here. The books were all interesting. Not a bored moment, but that was a good idea. Robertson had put that together yesterday. I wanted to commend her for that.
Thank you.
That's all.
Ms. Terry?
I don't have any comments.
Well, me, I'd like to say, also to echo what Ms. Daniels said about King. I really appreciate what King did, you know, the integrity part of it, because you could have us just not, but you didn't. And so that's what I learned. I learned leadership this week about integrity, and so you got to have it. But also, too, as y'all see, this is a slinky, board members. We can go all the way out, but remember, we got to come back in. Remember, we're working for the citizens of this town. We all gonna make some votes that's not gonna make everybody happy and all that, but again, we're a board, we're tasked to do a job, you know, and leadership is the art of mobilizing others to want to struggle for a shared aspiration. So keep that in mind. I mean, you know, we all up here, as you can see, I know I'm keeping everybody late, but these are the hours that we keep. And because we're here for a common cause, to get the job done for the town of Winterville. Ain't nobody perfect. I don't think nobody on this board is perfect, you know. But, you know, just remember that. We're here to govern, and we don't govern alone. So with that being said, we got a closed session. Can I get a motion? All right. Ready for the vote,
Ready.
Terry?
Oh, yes.
For closed session.
Okay, starting with Councilwoman Harrell.
Yes.
Councilman Moore.
Yes.
Councilman Moy.
Yes.
Councilman Rice. All affirmative to move into closed session.
We're going into closed session. Y'all more than welcome to sit around and wait for us to come out. You missed my metaphor.
6 o'clock. Hey, Brian, good job.
How about?
Excellent.
6 o'clock, that's exciting.
Yeah.
If we had, I mean, at 6 o'clock, I would have never.
My coach up there. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you.